We did one segment talking about the media coverage and unnamed sources, all that. Let's talk now about what's happened. You were on vacation last week, but you really didn't get a vacation. I just didn't get to see it. It's a vacation for me, maybe. I have been frustrated with this whole situation because I felt like OBrien didn't tell whole truths to his recruits and his current players. He keeps Christian Hackenberg and Adam Brenneman there by saying, trust me, that I'm in this for the long haul, and he's out a year later. He's telling a recruit on the phone, these reports aren't true. I'm talking about Thomas Holley, and yet he's taking a job somewhere else. Obviously, I talked with the general manager at Houston. We find out for a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
okay?
and you're right. And this is, on one hand, if you want to take sort of the pro-coach view of this, you say, well, I mean, any time that a coach leaves a college job, he's going to be leaving some recruits high and dry. I mean,
True.
That's sort of the one way of looking at it. But the other way of looking at it is, I go back to Thomas Holley. I mean, OBrien could have done everything exactly the same and not lied to Thomas Holley. If Thomas Holley is accurately reporting the conversation that he had with Bill O'Brien on the record now, this is him talking in an interview at the Under Armour game in Florida last weekend, then Bill O'Brien flat out lied to him. And that's not sort of the thing that you can just accept as a reality of the business, in my opinion.
And coaches are going to leave, and I understand they have their dreams, but this is a little bit of a different situation what Penn State was in. With the sanctions last year and the guys you got, the number one quarterback recruit in the nation, you got him to stay and trust you. That's a little bit different situation for me. I actually, on that note, think Penn State's in a worse situation now than what they were 2 years ago with this job, and it's going to be harder to get a quality coach in here than what it was 2 years ago. The reasons being lame duck AD, lame school president. They're both leaving. So if you're coming as a coach, these aren't the guys coming in are the ones that hired you.
I hear you.
And you're going to lose all these good recruits because he had a good recruiting class coming in. Top 20.
I don't think they're going to lose all their recruits, and I don't think they're in a worse.
Lose the good ones.
I don't think they're in a worse situation than they were 2 years ago. I mean, 2 years ago, if they could have gotten Mike Munchak, they would have got him. I don't think. I mean, it turns out we didn't know who Bill O'Brien was, and they hit the lottery on Bill O'Brien, but. I mean, this was 2 years ago was a bad situation. But Bill O'Brien, as much as I admired him, and I think he did a phenomenal job at Penn State, I'm struck by what a ruthless guy he apparently is. I mean, I watched his interview in Houston his introductory interview, and he said, yeah, tomorrow we're going to sit down and talk to all of these assistant coaches on the staff here at Houston. It's going to be a valuable experience for them and a valuable experience for me. It's going to be a long day. Well, reportedly, he talked to all of them for 2 to 5 minutes and fired every one of them immediately. I mean, maybe that's what he had to do, and certainly he was complicit with the general manager and the owner. I mean, they were on board with it, obviously, but. Man, imagine doing that. Just on a human level. Wow, I don't know.
It's a very New England Bill Belichick type move, but totally opposite of what he was saying. It doesn't make a lot of sense either. You're right. And also, I remember you said how you thought Houston was going to be a great spot for him because you keep Wade Phillips, the defense is intact. He cleaned house.
Well, but he's getting Romeo Crennel, who he certainly thinks, and a lot of NFL people think is an excellent defensive coordinator.
Who did it in New England when there was video usage and play? Okay, he hasn't done it well.
Well, maybe there's technology. Maybe there's new technology they're working with now. Maybe even
so.
more advanced.
I think it's mirrors also.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you realize that Penn State, if you're a redshirt freshman, a redshirt sophomore at Penn State, this will be the fourth coach you'll be playing for?
That's right. Yep.
They need to get stability there. What have you heard? Who's going to be the coach? Al Golden's now supposedly off the market. We'll see. Maybe he'll be back in play. James Franklin? Is it Munchak?
I think we're down. Yeah, I think we're down to
Johnson?
3. I think we're down to 3, and the third, Larry Johnson, I think is very unlikely to be hired as the head coach. But it's very important that they finesse how they handle that and give him an interview and at least give the appearance that they can seriously consider him. I'm for James Franklin. I think in terms of Penn State winning football games, and also just from my personal standpoint, covering the team, I think he's the most interesting, dynamic guy. He's an offensive mind. He's done a tremendous job at Vanderbilt. I think people have forgotten how bad Vanderbilt was for decades and decades and decades in the SEC. And so he would be my choice. Munchak. The concern with Munchak is he's never recruited. But I don't have any sense of who's ahead between Munchak and Franklin. I think that's roughly a tie as far as, again, aggregating and sort of reading the tea leaves and using my own judgment. That's what I've got so far.
Key word, I think, would be dynamic. After you had a good tasting meal, you can't go back to fast food now. You had the NASCAR no huddle, all these tight ends.
Franklin is more like O'Brien than the others. Yeah,
now, let me throw two more names out there. David Cutcliffe with Duke, only 59 years old. He looks older than that. Dynamic with what he did in Duke. I think he'd be interesting. His resume, he's been Peyton Manning and Eli Manning's coach in the years past. And I will also throw out Greg Roman, who's the offensive coordinator for the 49ers.
Yep.
I wonder whether this thing drags on if he couldn't come in, a local guy out of New Jersey.
I would be willing to bet that there's names that we don't know about, and those are two pretty good ones. Cutcliffe is I actually talked to Cutcliffe at length one time when he was at Tennessee when they played Penn State in the bowl game. He's a very impressive dude. He's done a phenomenal job. He looks older than he is, which might factor into it. You're right, Starkey, but yeah, that's not a bad name at all. We'll see.